everybody, this is the Sew Mindful Podcast, and I'm really excited to have with me today Imogen Lamport. We've only recently met, but already I'm obsessed with her stuff. It's true, I've kind of binged, read loads of stuff from your website, and we've chatted a few times, haven't we? And it's always been fantastic. So I'll just let Imogen introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about what she does and who she works with. So who is it that you mostly work with, Imogen, and what kind of things do you help them with?
So I am an image consultant. A lot of people think of these as personal stylists. I also do colour analysis and all those sorts of things. I write the blog Inside Out Style, which is, I call the encyclopedia of colour and style these days. It's got thousands of posts, and it's all aimed at the kind of information my clients want to know about how to dress yourself in a way that flatters you and is also authentic to you. So that's really my aim in life, is helping women, generally, not the 20-year-olds and such, but I definitely have some 20-year-olds who are interested, but a little bit older for many of us who have got less time. And we just kind of sometimes have got a bit lost with our style. So looking to help you discover who you are, how you want to express yourself through your clothes and your image, and finding what really flatters you so that you actually feel great as well as looking great. So that's really kind of where I've been coming from. I've been doing this since 2004, so just a few years. And I have online style programs and stuff too that give you all that kind of information that you need to know, to whether to make your clothes or buy your clothes. I have lots of sewers follow me because they, when you spend hours making something, you really don't want to discover it's not very flattering. You really want to know that what you're choosing is actually going to make you look amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And it can be a real challenge because, like you say, you put a lot of effort into making it, and it's not cheap to buy fabric, for example.
No.
And so you want to make sure it's going to look great before, as many tips as you can to give you the best chance. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so what kind of, so you mentioned a few of the resources on your website. So typically when I think of style consultants, I kind of think of going to see somebody and having an assessment and that kind of thing, but you do quite a lot more than that, don't you?
I do. So, I do that sort of stuff. So I do it with the people in real life. I also do it online, but I also just have a lot of self-discovery things. So there's a body shape calculator quiz. So if you're not sure of your shape, and then that gives you your body shape Bible, which tells you what shapes of clothes you're looking for. There's also a bit of a personality quiz to understand a little bit about how your personality influences your choices of clothes. We've all had the experience of walking to a department store and looking around and thinking, who would wear that thing? And it's because it's not our personality. Even if it might suit our body, it might suit us physically. And this is why we all have that experience where we shop, where we try things and we just go, it's not me. So what I really do is I empower women and teach women to understand what is me. So when they are making those choices, they're actually making them from a place of knowledge rather than just a random trying things. Occasionally something works and then I just buy 10 of it in the same color or different colors because I don't know what else to do. That's, So helping to get you out of those sorts of little issues.
Yeah, and I think I'm definitely a rules person. I like a good rule and a good formula, and it just makes it easier for making those kind of decisions. I'm not a natural chooser of style, so anything that can help is a bonus, really. And I think in terms of, so you touched on it quite a little bit there, is in terms of picking colours and fabrics and things that suit you, that won't necessarily suit everybody, but won't be their style. So one of the things that I was really interested in when I first started looking at some of your stuff was the loads of things that you've already mentioned, your calculator and some of the other tools. And I'm sure we'll do more episodes around some of those aspects as well, because that does fascinate me. And it's been a huge help. But one of the areas that I hadn't seen in other places in the same way, which we're going to talk about today, was how you can use some of your own features to help you understand what fabrics and what styles and accessories work best for you. And I really liked some of the rules, and it was quite easy to follow. So I thought we could talk a bit more about that today, if that's okay. So can you explain a little bit more about what those features are and how you can kind of assess them for yourself?
Sure. So one of the things that the whole way I approach style is looking for the harmony. So a bit like, if we're listening to music and we want things to be in harmony, we have the same things when we're looking at people. we want those elements of style, whether it's the color, the body shape, the figure flattery, the the textures, the sheen, which we're going to talk about today, and the personality all need to be in harmony with you. So when we are looking at fabric, some of the things we're looking at when we're choosing fabric is, will this fabric, and this is where there's a bunch of things with fabric, but so will this fabric flatter my figure? And that's got to do with your somatotype. So that just means it's Greek for body type. So that's really just looking at how that fabric falls over your body. So stiff fabric. So when you're in a store and you're going, well, I get this fabric, will it work in this pattern? Because it might say, on a pattern, it will say, try this, that, and something else fabric. Part of that, it's about how it will fall. So a stiff fabric stands away from your body. It has more structure. It's better for some garments and is better for some people's bodies as well. So the harder your body is, so the more muscle it is, or the more bony it is, the more skeletal, the better you are to go for more stiff and structured fabrics. Versus if you have a softer body, so I think, more women have more softer bodies, more curves, what we're looking for is drapey fabrics that kind of puddle when you drop them on the ground, fabrics that they fall over your curves, and so actually fall close to the body, because a stiff fabric can stand a long way away from the body, and you're only as large as the widest point of view. So if whatever you're wearing is standing away from you, it's actually going to make you look larger, versus if your fabric is falling close to the body, it's going to make you look slimmer. Yeah. So that's just one small aspect of fabric that you can think about.
Yeah. And it does make a difference, I think, even when you make a particular garment, that the style lends itself to particular fabrics. And they do make fabric recommendations on the patterns, for example, but for that reason. And I remember as a child, when I first started making clothes in school, we did dressmaking, being insistent that I wanted to make this pleated skirt out of corduroy, which is quite a stiff fabric. And it literally just stood out like a little cake. I think it was kind of, that was not a success in my dressmaking career. So it totally makes sense.
But it was a great lesson, wasn't it? But you went, I must take more note of what it says on the pattern.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's kind of aspect like that with, so thinking about the drape of the fabric is really important. And this is why, you can get recommendations with body shape of, you should wear an A-line skirt, or you should wear a, whatever shape skirt. But if it's in the wrong fabric, it won't work. And this is where often people go, well, that thing must be wrong, so it's all wrong. Rather than understanding, actually, we also have to bring in all these other elements of how is that fabric going to fall. And as someone who sews, you'll know that even if you take the same pattern and then make it in different fabrics, it will work very differently and it will fit very differently. So the fabric is actually such an important part of that decision-making process you're going through when you're choosing a fabric to make.
Yeah, definitely. And even whether it's got a little bit of give or whether it's very structured, like you say, it does change how it comes up, finishes up on the body, and how the overall structure of the garment looks once it's done. And there are occasions where you want structure, and there are occasions where you want drape, as you say, definitely. One of the things that it also touches on in your in some of your videos is the aspects of understanding your own colour contrast. So could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Oh, that's a deep hole we're going into. So when we are looking at someone, so if you look at me, you'll notice I have light coloured hair, light coloured skin, but I've got fairly darkish blue eye. They're not a really light blue eye. So I have a little bit of difference between my colouring. You'll notice my hair is kind of neutral in its blonde. It's not a really golden blonde. It's a much more ashy neutral blonde. So that's a neutral kind of colour. My skin has a little bit of colour to it, but my eyes also have colour. So it means I look better wearing colour. Versus if you have, say, brown eyes, brown hair and a beige skin, you're going to look better wearing neutrals. So colour contrast is how differently coloured you are. So if you had red hair and green eyes, you're going to look amazing wearing multicoloured outfits. Versus Someone who has got a much lower color contrast, so has that kind of, like more neutral appearance, is going to look like a bit like a clown. And this is often where we can know, we'll just try things, we'll know something looks good or looks bad, but it can come down to some of these aspects like color contrast, which is, quite an amazing topic, but can also, it's quite down a rabbit hole when you kind of really start to get into it. But it's really, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you think, do I look like a colorful person? Like, is my natural appearance more colorful, or is it more neutral, or is it a combination where I've got a bit of neutral and a bit of color? So if you've got like, colored eyes but neutral hair and skin, then go, I look good in neutrals and a color. If I've got no color, then you just one color at a time. So monochromatic just means variations of one color. Mono meaning one and chroma meaning color. So that's what monochromatic is. It's not black and white. Achromatic is black and white. Achromatic means without chroma or without color. So if you're monochromatic, then you could go, I could wear shades of blue or shades of green, or today I'm wearing shades of kind of pink and purple. Quite similar sorts of colors together, rather than wearing purple with green, which is much more colorful.
Yeah.
So it's looking at what those aspects are of yourself and then repeating them in your clothing. And that's where it's all about this harmony. It's all about how can I repeat what I am in what I wear.
Yeah.
And that also looks at things like, texture. I mean, I think texture in fabric is a really fascinating thing, because so if you think about textured fabrics, we've got anything from, say, a lace, which can be a fine texture, but if it's a ribbon lace, it can be a bit more chunky. Just a fine rib knit, it's still got some texture to it, or something completely smooth like a satin or a poplin even is a very smooth fabric. And then we could go to like really chunky knitted things like the cable knits and those sorts of things, which so many people have in their wardrobe and never wear because they say, every time I put it on, it makes me feel huge. And my little rule of thumb is, if you would describe the texture as chunky, it will make you look chunky.
That's a good rule. That's a good rule.
If it's fine, it's fine.
But they always look so nice in the shop though, don't they? That's the trouble.
They do. They look warm and snuggly and all those sorts of things. And then you put them and you go, oh, like I've just gained a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Then if you look at if you're going, well, but should I go for texture? It's look at your hair, look at your skin. If you have, like you and I both have smooth hair, so we look better in smoother fabrics. We also have more smooth skin, versus if you have like, spiky hair, curly hair, some sort of, more coarse hair, often very thick hair is more coarse, it has more texture to it, then start looking for garments that have texture. Now, it could be something like a tweed that has that bit of texture, even a twill has a bit of texture, right up to those kind of much more textural sorts of fur and other kind of fabrics that you can think about. But you'll often find, even too, if you have got that like textural hair, often you'll find like some sort of modelly tweed is much better for you than just a solid, plain worsted wool or something like that. So so that's something that you can think about.
So you can pick up on those aspects when you're looking at your fabrics. And what if you like the idea of the texture, but you're is there a way to wear texture? So say you see something that you fall in love with, but it's not really, is there a way to kind of include that in your outfits and still be able to wear a little bit of that?
Yeah, I wouldn't go overboard. And then thinking about too, can I make it work? So one of the things I do is, if I want to wear my more textural garments, I curl my hair a bit.
Okay.
So sometimes I can artificially, I can curl my hair. That's something to look at. If you have wrinkly skin or textured skin, we could call it, this is why, there is a kind of old lady boiled wool thing, you go, like in boucle suits were very, like you think about the past, and it's because it works with that textural hair and often that short curly do that used to be the old lady do when I was growing up. And it's because it works. Versus imagine a wrinkly face and kind of curly old hair on smooth satin or something. It juxtaposes and it doesn't, and you suddenly go, I notice the wrinkles more. Okay. Versus when we're thinking about like that, repeating whatever we're seeing. So we think about that wrinklier skin and then that, boucle fabric, it works together really well. But so it's like, I can artificially say curl my hair if I want to wear more texture. Or I just might put it in smaller doses, or make sure I'm putting it with something else that's smooth as well, or wear it a bit further away from my face rather than right next to my face.
Okay, yeah, so as a skirt rather than a jacket or that kind of thing as well. Yeah. Okay, and then one of the other things that fascinated me as well was this idea of the kind of relating to texture, but more about the shine. We talked about this last time we spoke, didn't we, around how you can pick up on your own, and I'd never even really thought about it. I think because I as growing up, I think I was always taught, put your makeup on, pile a load of powder on, you don't really want to shine. And I think that, the fashion's generally changed anyway, hasn't it? There's a lot more around having a more natural sheen on your skin, or a glow. I'm not very good at these terms, but thank you. So but interestingly around and I think it can change summer and winter as well, can't it? So can you just kind of tell us a little bit more about that?
So again, when we're looking at particularly hair and skin, so when we think about, whenever you see a shampoo commercial, what hair do they always have in it? It's long, black, the straightest hair you'll ever see, because that is the shiniest hair you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Because dark hair, especially smooth, flat, dark hair, reflects light really well. So of course it looks amazing when they toss that, hair. So when we're thinking about hair, so the more your hair is shiny, you will look better in some sort of shine. Now, you might notice on me that I have got a shine in my skin. It does not matter how much powder I put on, I go shiny really fast. If I just wear all matte fabrics, I can look kind of greasy. Versus if I make sure that I'm always wearing something that's got some shine. So even if it's just a piece of jewelry, like I wear a little bit of bling. And also my makeup also has sheen in it. So I don't go for the matte makeup. I actually go for the makeup with pearlescence. Now we're all told, you get over 50 or 40, you've got to go to matte makeup.
Yeah.
I'm over 50. I still have to wear shiny makeup because I'm a shiny person.
Right.
So it's like going over the shiny, smoother, shiny hair, shiny skin, wear something shiny. So I might go for garments with a bit of sheen or shine in them, like the fabrics to have some shine, or I might just do it in an accessory, because the whole thing is shiny fabrics draw attention and therefore can make you look larger. They can highlight areas. So I'm always wary about where I put shine over my body parts, where I go, I don't want people looking at my stomach, so I'm not going to put shiny things over it. So if you're more naturally matte fabrics will work better. Got a bit of sheen. So some people are in between, where it's that it's not highly shiny, but it's not matte. Go for things with a little bit of sheen, and even things like silk has that little element of sheen to it. Versus your satin and stuff is that high shine, or your sequins, things like that are also really shiny. So work much better when someone has that natural shine to them.
Yeah, and it kind of struck me when I'd read about that, around the difference between a daytime outfit and a going out outfit, where I might straighten my hair and make that look, like you say, make it look more shiny, because I'm going to be wearing something that's got some shine in it, or a bit sparkly, or include.
And you might use a highlighter and add a bit more sparkle to your face and all those sorts of things as well. So you can, you can up it, you can reduce it.
Yeah. Depending on what the occasion is, or what effect you're trying to get, and interesting about putting that on different parts of your body as well. You're thinking about making a whole dress out of something versus having a really nice shiny long skirt, for example, and maybe a matte top or something, if depending on what you're trying to do.
Or you can even just do shine, from above the bust to the shoulders or something, and make the rest of it matte, and that's going to draw attention up to the portrait area, which is like the most important area to dress. Because that's what we're looking at when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to your face. I also say to my clients, if you're looking in my eyes, you're not looking at my thighs.
That's a great one. I must get that on a t-shirt.
So what I want to do is draw attention to my face. So jewelry, like I've got my accessories on, those sorts of things. Make sure if I'm going to put shine, put it in this area up here. That's where the razzle dazzle happens. Yeah. And then keep the other bit plain and boring that you don't want to look at because it's too dull.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's good. That's great tips. So just in terms of then helping people make decisions about fabric, because it can be a bit tricky buying fabrics online, because you're sort of seeing just the picture of that, and it's hard to, we talked about this as well, didn't we, about kind of imagining that pattern, we haven't really talked about patterns actually, perhaps spend a bit more time on that. So but whenever I go into a fabric shop, or if I'm looking online, most of what they're promoting is these lovely fabrics with lots of patterns and colours and so on. But from what we've spoken about so far, they're probably the ones to either keep to a minimum or to avoid, even though they appeal when you're on the website. Actually making a garment out of them or an outfit out of them is going to be more challenging and may be harder to work. And as you mentioned earlier, if you're not a person who has high contrast, wearing lots of different colours in the same fabric may not be ideal. And I've definitely had experiences of that where I've looked at a fabric in the shop, thought it was gorgeous, made a dress out of it, and thought, well, my goodness, that's way too much. That's never. Let's make that shorter and make it into a top or something. So yeah. So have you got any tips around how we can choose patterns and colour? Yeah.
So one of the things to think about too is again, going back to the skin. Is your skin plain or patterned? So if you have, say, a lot of freckling or age spots or whatever, you have a more patterned skin. So you could actually look great in pattern, particularly, or even if you have if your hair is multitonal in its colours. So if you've got multicolored hair, whether it's going grey, in that we get that grey, white, all those different colours in there, or whether I've got different highlights or something that bring out different colours. All those elements speak to pattern. They say, hey, have some pattern because you're like me. Again, we're putting that harmony in there. So if you're like freckled, then often leopard print is a brilliant pattern for you, because what it does is it's like, when we're covered in leopard print, nobody notices the freckles. So when we're thinking about pattern, there's a few little keys to pattern to really think about that just can make it easy. So when we think about prints and patterns, we can have sparse prints. So they're prints where the elements of print are a long way from each other. There's a lot of negative space in between. These are the fattening prints. We can have dense prints.
Okay.
These are the ones, often like a leopard print or whatever, where all the elements of print are all over each other. The print doesn't start and stop. There's no particular focal point of the print. These are really slimming prints. So these are great prints to choose. So if you look at a print and you go, there's no one part of the print I just want to look at. There's no focal point of the print. It doesn't start and stop. There's not really much negative space. It's just everywhere. Like I think like twinkle, 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 twinkle. And leopard print is a good example of that. These are great prints. Now, of course, you can get that in any colorway. You could get it in a neutral. So if you're not a high color contrast person, you could just go, I'm just going to have, one color leopard, like the shades of brown or, the sort of thing that your traditional leopard, or it could be grays and blacks and whites, but we can go that kind of one color version. Now, if you've got more color, that's when you're looking for a print that's got a bit more color, but you're still looking for that more dense print. But that might have, maybe it's got two colors in it. It's rather than one color. Could have three. So the higher color contrast goes, the more colors you can add into those prints. But I always go, if you look for a dense print, that is always going to make it easier. And the other thing to think about is the scale of the print. So the larger the scale of the print, the harder it is to wear. So I always think about, if you think about the size of your hand, your outstretched, finger, the whole thing, that's a very large scale print. Yeah. That's going to really draw attention. Now, a medium scale is kind of the palm, and a small scale is just like a, 5p piece. I'm trying to think, well, penny, 10 cent, whatever, depends what, a small coin.
Yeah.
One quid, like whatever's a small one. Kind of the small element. So really small elements. So then you've got to think about how large are you as a person. So if you're petite, you want to stay with smaller prints. If you're more average or medium, you can go up to medium size. And if you're very tall, you can go to larger scale prints. So that also relates to your overall kind of body scale as well. If you have very large facial features, even if you're more petite, you can get away with, you've got large facial features with wearing a larger size print because it's relating to something larger on you. Right. If you've got tiny facial features, then you're better in tinier prints because, again, otherwise what we notice is that it's the difference between them. So what we want to do is just keep repeating whatever it is about you physically in those elements of design that you're looking at.
Yeah, so minimize the jarring aspects to to stop that drawing attention to those elements, unless that's what you're wanting to do, I suppose. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things you could easily do is, if you're looking online, is have a photo of yourself. Minimize the screen so you can see. Have the photo of you up, and have the print you're looking at up. Put them next to each other and go, does it look like it goes, or does it jar in some way? That would be the easiest thing you could do, just to go, is this related to me or not? Because there's also what we call the value contrast. So value is just the technical word for how light or dark a color is. And so the higher your value contrast. So if we talk Disney princesses here, Snow White, she's the high value contrast. She's black and white. She looks great in the black and white print, like the zebra print, or excuse me, that real black and white print, of which there's many of them around, millions of black and white prints around. That's the Snow White print. If you're more like Cinderella, blonde hair or light hair, pale skin, lighter colored eyes, you look better in a print that hasn't got that really high contrast. You look better in a light with a medium color, or a medium with a dark color, rather than a straight light dark. If you want to wear that light dark print, you need to put the medium color in between. So you need to have something that I think is a more blended print, where you don't really know where it starts light, goes medium, goes dark, it's got all the elements in it, from the whole kind of value scale, as we call it, in it, rather than just straight light dark.
Yeah.
And then if you're Ariel, so our mermaid, she's a high color contrast. She's, orange and green. She looks great in those multicolored prints, but without that high value contrast, not the light dark, just different colored prints.
Okay. Yeah. So and is there anything around the difference? So you talked about body shape and hardness and softness earlier. And does that, because I've also kind of been looking at whether floral patterns or geometric patterns work best, and have you got any tips around that?
Well, patterns really come down to personality and personal likes and dislikes. There's a lot of that there. So you've always got to go, I love a floral. I have a friend, she's all leopards. She doesn't ever wear florals. I know other people, everything's a stripe. You can open the wardrobe and it's just stripe shirts, stripe shirts, stripe shirts. So part of that is personality. Then within that, so it's like, what am I attracted to? I think that's the number one thing. Then it's, okay, with all of those prints, I can find more or less flattering versions. And so then it's looking at saying, okay, well, do I want large geometrics or small ones? Do I want, what scale do I want? Because that relates to that body scale that I was talking about before. I might think about what contrasts work as well. And then I can also, think about, well, what body part am I putting it on? So if I want to wear not a dense print, I want to wear a print that's got one flower here and one flower there and one over there. Well, how can I do that? Well, I don't want to put it on the body part that I want to make look, to be less obvious. I'll put it on the other part of my body. I might make it in something that's very drapey. So what happens is, instead of it being stretched out, so in some sort of garment where we see the whole thing because it's very flat, then we notice the distance. Versus if it's something that's drapey, suddenly the fabric folds onto itself. So those elements of design aren't as far apart. We're making it more dense. So that's something to think about as well. So often people think, I'm a pear shape, I can't wear busy pattern, I can't wear patterns on my bottom half. But in fact, you can. You just want to have it in that busy, dense pattern in the right scale, rather than in a sparse pattern. And the other thing to remember is horizontal lines broaden. So any sort of stripe, be very aware it has a broadening effect. So be wary where you put them. Don't put them on a body part you don't want to make look broader.
Yeah, and the width of the stripe as well, isn't it? That's also kind of plays a part. Yeah. So the wider the stripe, the wider it makes you look. So when it's very narrow, it's fine. But when it gets even to about that kind of centimeter and a half, it starts to have a widening effect. So, and then if you get those big, bold stripes, they are the worst for being widening. Yeah, so unless you're looking for that big broad shoulder look, then
but if you want to balance your pear shape, you put the stripes up on your shoulders and you keep the bottom with a busy dense pattern or something.
Yeah So much to think about. No wonder it's so easy to get it wrong. Do you know, I think there's so many things, so many different aspects, or not get it quite right, I suppose. There's never a wrong, is there? There's just a decision. But okay, well, I mean, loads of stuff to work with there, and I'll put a lot of that stuff in the show notes as well for the episode. I know you have loads of tools and things on your website. Is there any particular ones in this area that we can direct people to?
So I suppose if you want to kind of figure out what your body shape is, just go and have a look at my body shape calculator quiz. That's a really handy thing to do. And of course, if you want my professional opinion, I give that out as part of my 7 Steps to Style program, which really is the kind of, if you want to get all your particulars down. And I think that's where you're going, you know, before I go into the stores, before I waste a whole lot of A, money, and B, time on making something, and even buying patterns, like that's one of those things of going, which pattern should I choose? Knowing your shapes, your styles, where to put, you know, should I put the dark bit here or the dark bit there? Where do I put the light bit? Where do I put the pattern? All those sorts of things. When you get that stuff nailed down, it makes those choices so easy, because you just go, yeah, that's me, that's not me. You create your own personal set of guidelines, and then it becomes so much easier to, you know, to be making the ideal wardrobe that actually works together and makes you look amazing.
Yeah, and we'll definitely, I mean, I'd love to do another episode around the body shape, because that was just the work I've done from getting to know you to start with has made a big difference to me already. So I can highly recommend that. So definitely head over there. I'll put a link in the show notes for that. And any other, there's a few other articles around some of the things that we talked about around like harmonious outfits and that kind of thing that I think would be also helpful for relating to this topic. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with before we wrap up?
I don't know, where do I start? You can also do on the blog too, there's a little search bar. If you just put the word texture in, like you're going, I want to know everything about texture, just put in the word texture or sheen or shine, like those sorts of things, and it will actually bring up pretty much everything I might have read or written or even mentioned in the thousands of posts. That's why it's a bit of an encyclopedia. Fortunately, you can search things up. So
yeah, and I can testify to that, definitely. It really is, and I've used the search and it's amazing, and there are so many pieces on there. It's so true. So I highly recommend going to take a look if you've been listening to this episode. And the website address is insideoutstyleblog.com, so if you want to head over there. And if people want to connect with you on other platforms, what's your details there?
So on Instagram, I'm Inside Out Style Blog. On Facebook, I'm Inside Out Style Blog. Try and make it fairly easy to find me. Pinterest, I think I'm just Imogen Lamport. I can't quite remember. Twitter, I think I'm Imogen Lamport. So it's either my name or just Google Inside Out Style Blog. You'll find me.
Brilliant. Okay, well, it's been great, Imogen, and I know we could carry on talking for another 2 hours at least. We tend to chat away, don't we? So we will definitely do another episode, at least one, around particularly around the body shapes. I think that's been really interesting for me for picking patterns for dressmaking. But I just want to thank you for your time. It's been amazing. Thank you so much, and we'll speak again soon.
Thanks, Jackie.